Making headlines tonight. Prime Minister Hun Sen has accepted the invitation from US President Joe Biden to attend the ASEAN-US Summit on the 12th and 13th of May. He said Cambodia fully supports the enhancement of the Asian-US relations. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged athletes who will participate in the South Asian Games to respect the rules and avoid the use of drugs or doping to protect the country's dignity. A Ukrainian commander in the beside city of Mariupol made a plea for evacuation of troops and civilians holed up in Azotov steel plant. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson showed off his soccer skills during a visit to Borough Football Club in Manchester on Monday, 25th of April. And Mexico City welcomed a life-size replica of the Vatican Sistine Chapel in the capital's historic city centre. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Anthony Ellis. Prime Minister Hun Sen has accepted the invitation from US President Joe Biden to attend the upcoming ASEAN-US Summit on the 12th and 13th of May. He has stressed that Cambodia fully supports the enhancement of ASEAN-US relations from the strategic partner to a comprehensive strategic partner. In a letter dated Thursday, the 28th of April 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen thanked the President of the United States for his invitation and said he would attend the summit in May. He believes that though the US President Joe Biden's commitment to further strengthen US-ASEAN relations, especially on the occasion of the 45th anniversary of the ASEAN-US Dialogue Partnership, the partnership will be taken a step forward of the new level. The Prime Minister wrote, saying at the Asian Chair for 2022, I wish to reiterate Cambodia's strong desire to explore more opportunities to expand the ASEAN-US cooperation in all fronts. I am also confident that the special summit will serve an excellent opportunity for us to discuss on further enhancing our cooperation and exchange views on issues for common concern and interest in both ASEAN and United States. On the 20th of April, US President Joe Biden sent an official letter to the Prime Minister Hun Sen inviting him to attend the ASEAN-US Summit in Washington on the 12th and 13th of May 2022. Biden wrote, I am pleased to invite the Prime Minister to attend the ASEAN-US Special Summit in Washington, D.C. on the 12th and 13th of May 2022. During the summit, we will celebrate the 45th anniversary of the long-standing partnership of outlining our shared ambitions for a new era of the ASEAN-US Dialogue Partnership. I'm looking forward to meeting with the Prime Minister and other ASEAN leaders at the White House. Speaking at the meeting with the Cambodian delegation for the 31st SEA Games in Vietnam on Thursday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that he will leave for the United States on the 10th of May. During his visit, he said he will also meet with Cambodians living in the United States. The ASEAN-US Summit on the 12th to 13th of May 2022 is the second special summit of its kind to be held since 2016 and is also for the first face-to-face meeting with the US and ASEAN leaders since 2017. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged the athletes who will participate in the 2022 South Asian Games to respect the rules and avoid the use of drugs or doping to protect the country's dignity. EAC News reporter Deccan Nin has more details.
Speaking at a meeting held at Cockpit Theatre with more than 600 sports delegates for the 31st SEA Games on Thursday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen warned that the use of performance-enhancing drugs in sports will negatively impact the image of the nation and must not happen at all costs. The Prime Minister said,
ក្មួយជាកម្មករកម្មការជាកីឡាករកីឡាការិនីត្រូវដឹងឲ្យច្បាស់ថាការទៅប្រកួតនេះគឺកាន់ទង់ព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាទង់ជាតិនៃព្រះរាជាណាចក្រកម្ពុជាទៅជាមួយដូច្នេះក្មួយត្រូវតែដឹងថានៅជាប់នឹងខ្លួនក្មួយនោះមានតួអង្គព្រះមហាក្សត្រមានតួអង្គនីតិបញ្ញត្តិរដ្ឋសភាព្រឹទ្ធសភាមានតួអង្គនីតិប្រណិប័តជាពិសេសមានប្រជាជនជិត17លាននាក់ដែលនៅជាមួយនឹងក្មួយ
He also told the athletes attending the competition to consistently respect the rules and regulations. A total of 560 representatives from Cambodia will be attending the 31st SEA Games in Hanoi, Vietnam, which includes 45 sports leaders and officials, 363 athletes, 93 coaches and assistant coaches, 16 international referees, 22 team leaders, and 21 doctors. Deccan Nin, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has ordered the Minister of Economy and the Minister of Health to transfer the COVID-19 patients who are being treated in Olympic Stadium to Lung Mai Hospital and Chak Angre Hospital so that the stadium can begin undergo repairs for the 2023 South Asian Games, which is in Cambodia will host. EAC News reporter Darshana Guchin has more details.
The Prime Minister gave the order to transfer COVID-19 patients from the stadium to hospitals during a meeting with the Cambodian sports delegation participating in the 31st SEA Games on Thursday morning at the Kapik Theatre in Phnom Penh.
Chẳng ai tên này chủng ngữ nữa, là nơi nước tới chạng rê, có này chủng ngữ người ta. Đối chứ nè, chăm bị phía xa kia là mình. Rứ tới một tí bết luôn má, rứ tới một tí bết chẳng rế. Pro đào bấy bỏ cô start nè, sầm rạp ca chú chưa lời hơi srot. Pro dương nâu sol bê trong mạch trăm tí tí, ca bỏ cô SEA Games nâng mọt đào. Hai dương có vô cả lấy nâng thư ca vắc hạt, và thèm tí đẻ. Toàn mẹ chủng ngư rồi dương nâng ca thôi cho.
According to the Prime Minister, there are currently more than 90 COVID-19 patients being treated in Cambodia, including 26 in Phnom Penh. On 25th April 2021, following the 20th February community outbreak event which caused many citizens in Phnom Penh to get infected with COVID-19, the Phnom Penh Municipal Administration decided to allocate the National Olympic Stadium, the National Polytechnic Institute, and the Premier Sensok Building as COVID-19 treatment centers. However, after the community event was officially closed by Prime Minister Hun Sen on 20th December 2021, the National Polytechnic Institute and the Premier Sensok Building were reinstated for their original purposes by the capital administration, leaving only the National Olympic Stadium assigned as a COVID-19 treatment center. According to the governor of Phnom Penh, Governor Quong Sreng, the COVID-19 treatment center in Phnom Penh may be completed by early 2023.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has ordered the Cambodian Olympic Committee to contact the airline in Cambodia to arrange a plane for the athletes set to compete in the South Asian Games in Hanoi, Vietnam, so they can fly directly to the host city without a layover in order to raise the country's image in sports. EAC News reporter Saipor Kong has more.
The Prime Minister made this order during a meeting with the Cambodian delegation for the 31st SEA Games at Kapik Theatre on Thursday morning, discussing all final matter before the athlete depart for the Games. The Olympic Committee had originally planned to arrange plane ticket for the athlete to Hanoi, but with a layover in Ho Chi Minh City, Prime Minister Hun Sen has advised the committee to arrange a special plane that can fly directly to Hanoi instead. Vietnam is hosting the SEA Games for the second time. It is the largest sporting event in the region. The 31st SEA Games will be held from 12th to 23rd May 2022 in Hanoi and 11 neighboring provinces. Sripokong, EAC News.
The 31st South Asian Games will run from the 12th to 23rd of May in 2022 in Hanoi, Vietnam. 560 representatives of Cambodia, including 363 athletes, will attend this major regional sports event. EAC News spoke to some of the athletes gearing up to compete at the Games, who widely expressed their happiness of being able to attend and show their confidence that they will be able to bring medals back to the motherland. EAC News reporter Decca Nin will tell you more about it.
On the morning of Thursday, 28th of April, at the Kapik Conference Hall, Prime Minister Hun Sen met with more than 600 Cambodian athletes, coaches, and sports delegates set to attend the SEA Games in May. He encouraged them to train hard and to try and win to the best of their abilities to bring honor to the nation. Some of the athletes present at the meeting said that they are currently training hard to get good results in the competition. However, they also expressed some of their concerns about next month's competition.
I took part in the Philippines. I took part in the 2019 SEA Games in the Philippines, but the result was not good for us. It was my first experience at the Games. For this upcoming event, I have gained experience from the previous SEA Games. So I will use this past experience of failures to develop myself, and I will work hard to get good results for basketball, with all the support and the government has provided us. What worries me is players from other countries, most of whom are mixed ethnicity, so they are bigger than us, and it is difficult for us to keep up with them.
In recent years, Cambodia has won a series of gold medals in patong, so it can be considered a priority sport for the country. With Cambodia's top patong players participating in the SEA Games, expectations are high.
All of our sports teams are hopeful. And why is that? Because our team is training hard. Both men and women are training so hard we have no free time. So my team, both men and women, are training for the nation.
Us players always have hope, but we can't say in advance how it will be until we get into the game. Because we know ourselves, we also have hope, but we can't determine what medal we can bring. The important thing is trying to get medal for the nation is the best outcome for us players.
The coaches and sports delegates also showed similar confidence.
As a coach, there must be hope, but we can't talk about the level. We can only say that our national training and our athletes are good. But when we go to compete out there, they could be intimidated by other players. But if they are not afraid, we will succeed. On these matters, I do not dare make high predictions. When we competed in Malaysia, we won a bronze medal. And in 2019, we competed in the Philippines. And we won up to 5 bronze medals. Thus, we are progressing. This year at the 31st SEA Games in Vietnam, we hope that our athletes will win medals too. But we do not know what levels we are competing with.
Experts predict that Cambodia will win at least 5 gold medals at this year's SEA Games. The Minister of Tourism Thong Khon said that during the 2022 SEA Games, Cambodia will both partake in the competition and study how the event is organized, as the kingdom will be hosting the 32nd SEA Games next year. The minister added that Cambodia is ready to participate in 33 sporting categories in Hanoi. On the occasion of meeting with the 600 members of the Cambodian delegation for the 31st SEA Games, Prime Minister Hun Sen announced that he would provide $500 to each athlete attending the Games this year, and also ordered the Olympic Committee of Cambodia to organize a direct flight to Hanoi with a local airline to further strengthen to the country's image in the field of sport. The Prime Minister also instructed all players to respect the rules of the game and to absolutely avoid using performance-enhancing drugs to protect the dignity of Cambodia. Good luck to all our SEA Games athletes. Lê Khả Ninh, EAC News.
The Program Appraisal Committee of the Accelerating Disability Rights in Cambodia program held its meeting present the final program document and seek comments to guide the program's implementation on Thursday morning. The RDRC and the United Nations joint program between UNDP, OHCHR and UNESCO, with technical support provided to ILO and fully funded by United Nations Partnership to promote the rights of persons with disabilities. EAC News reporter Dashana Guchin has the details.
The meeting was held in hybrid online-offline format and was co-chaired by the Secretary of State of the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation and Secretary-General of the Disability Action Council, M. Chan Makara, and the UN Resident Coordinator, Pauline Temesis. Also in attendance were other government officials and representatives from the UNDP, OHCHR, UNESCO, ILO, and other relevant NGOs, government and private sector agencies. UN Resident Coordinator Pauline Temesis opened the meeting by welcoming all in attendance and giving a brief overview of the findings from the UNPRPD Secretariat-approved inception phase that involved a situation analysis of persons with disabilities in Cambodia and the program design in collaboration with various government institutions, organizations of persons with disabilities, and civil society organizations, with the participation of around 78 people, including 25 women. She said that the main key findings and recommendations from the situation analysis included strengthening national and subnational coordination mechanisms for expanded social protection coverage of persons with disabilities across the country, enhancing the capacity of organizations of persons with disabilities, women with disabilities forums, and the government, and supporting the implementation of the COVID-19 recovery plan, which will help persons with disabilities exercise their rights and access services and support. The UN Resident Coordinator further underlined that the main aim of the ADRC program is to enable structural change for the full inclusion of persons with disabilities in Cambodia. She also outlined the 3 program outcomes focused on enhancing stakeholder capacity to contribute to disability-inclusive policies and systems, reduce gaps between the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and humanitarian programs, and mainstream disability inclusion in national development and humanitarian plans. Representatives from the UNDP, the main implementing agency, and partners OHCHR and UNESCO presented the final details of the program document, such as the program rationale, strategy, work plan, budget, and monitoring and evaluation. Some of the main background findings included the lack of mainstreaming of disability into broader policies and plans in Cambodia, as well as how the COVID-19 pandemic particularly negatively impacted the livelihoods of persons with disabilities. The main strategies outlined to successfully implement the project included amending the new disability law and monitoring implementation in consultation with organizations of persons with disabilities and women with disabilities forums, improving access to information, justice, and legal aid services and vocational training and employment for persons with disabilities, and enhancing the capacity of organizations working in the disability sector. The meeting also clarified that there would be a program steering committee established, co-chaired by the Secretary of State of the Ministry of Social Affairs and the UN Resident Coordinator, and with relevant government, UN organization, and disability-focused local NGO representatives as members. The committee would be in charge of providing overall guidance and overseeing the implementation of the ADRC program. Following a brief Q&A session in which several partner and non-partnered organizations expressed their collective support of the program, Secretary of State M. Chan Makara delivered the closing remarks. He thanked the committee for inviting him to the meeting on behalf of the Minister of Social Affairs Vong South and expressed great appreciation for the draft program details presented, saying that he fully supports and agrees with the program initiative. He further continued that he is very grateful that the project focuses on Cambodian persons with disabilities, saying that he was happy to see a large amount of funding being dedicated to support the royal government of Cambodia in amending the national disability law and supporting the livelihoods of persons with disabilities after the COVID-19 pandemic. He took the opportunity to thank the UNDP for supporting Disability Action Council on the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, as well as the National Strategy Plan for Persons with Disabilities. The Secretary of State particularly mentioned how Prime Minister Hun Sen gives a lot of priority to the disability sector in Cambodia and spoke about how a new Center for Disability is currently being built and will be completed next year. He clarified that the royal government has so far ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and also has its own national law on the protection of persons with disabilities, and added that he hopes to see these documents get translated into action plans. The meeting concluded on a note of general agreement and collective endorsement for the program. The Accelerating Disability Rights in Cambodia program was developed with the aim to enable structural changes, such as improving legislative framework, enhancing implementation of policies, increasing participation in decision-making, which are necessary for the full inclusion of persons with disabilities into Cambodian society. The program will run from 5th March 2022 to 31st December 2023, with a budget of $622,419. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The Release Incentive Fund for Uniformed Women in Peace Operations announced on Thursday that Cambodia will receive funding to undertake study to identify barriers to development of women in Royal Cambodian Armed Forces to United Nations peace operations. Cambodia is the 25th highest troop contributed country to UN peacekeeping operations, currently deploying 766 military personnel among the 14% women. EAC News reporter Srey Paul Kong has more.
According to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Deputy Prime Minister Prasakhon, since 2006, Cambodia has deployed 83,002 peacekeepers, including 580 women to UN missions in 9 countries. Amongst the priority sector, the Royal Cambodian government promotes women's role in leadership, peace, and security. He said that Cambodia is committed to this project to support global peace and promote women's political, economic, and social participation in a post-conflict society. Committed to advancing gender equality, Cambodia plans to increase its deployment of military women to United Nations peacekeeping to 20% by 2024. This project marks as a crucial step in translating this commitment into concrete actions. Through a comprehensive assessment, the project will identify specific barriers to and opportunity for the meaningful participation of women in the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces. Results and recommendations from the project will also inform policy formulation and guide institutional reform to address the barrier identified and promote women's full and meaningful participation. In close partnership with the NPMEC and RCAF, the project will be managed by UN Women Cambodia, a long-standing partner supporting the Cambodian government in empowering women and advancing gender equality. UN Women Cambodia will oversee the project implementation, including the selection of an independent research institution to conduct the assessment, utilizing the measuring opportunity for women in peace operation methodology developed by the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance. Sarah Neeps, officer in charge of the UN Women Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, said that the project is a major landmark in supporting Cambodia's effort to increase women's meaningful participation in United Nations peacekeeping operations, a concrete example of multilateralism in action. This also coincides with Cambodia's role as the ASEAN chair this year. She believes that it will have a positive spillover impact in the ASEAN region and hopefully inspire other ASEAN member states to do the same. Although Cambodia is the second highest contributor of women peacekeepers among the ASEAN member states, Cambodia aims to go beyond the gender target set in the United Nations Uniform Gender Parity Strategy 2018-2028 by 2024 with this project. Sri Bokong, EAC News.
Cambodia has reported 5 new COVID-19 cases, none of which are imported. There have been 29 patient recoveries and no new deaths. The Kingdom has now recorded 15,799 cases of Omicron, 1,362 imported and 14,437 community cases. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has now climbed up to 136,240 and the death toll stands at 3,056. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic reached Cambodia is 133,023 and the tally for imported cases stands at 21,219. Healthcare workers are currently treated a total of 84 patients. Now for a look at the news making international headlines this Thursday, the 28th of April.
Peruvian police have entered a huge Chinese-owned Las Bambas copper mine in an attempt to evict an indigenous community that has established a camp near the open pit, forcing it to halt operations, a community leader and a government official said on Wednesday, April 27th. Las Bambas is owned by China MMG Ltd 1208.HK, supplies 2% of global copper. Residents of the indigenous Fuerabamba community entered the mine on April 14th, demanding what they say is their ancestral lands. The mine halted production a week later. After being asked by a Reuters reporter on how long they stay in the camp, an identified indigenous farmer said, "Until they comply with the commitments they have made to us. We are going to stay until they comply, until they give us work." Reuters reported on Tuesday, April 26th that Las Bambas was planning to forcefully evict the community on Wednesday. A government source with direct knowledge of the matter, who asked not to be named, told Reuters police had begun entering the mine. Peru's government declared a state of emergency in the area early on Wednesday, a move that suspends civil liberties such as the right to assembly and protest. The Fuerabamba community was resettled around a decade ago to make way for Las Bambas, one of the world's largest copper mines. The mine has battled against repeated protests and road blockades that have at times forced it to halt production. Getting production started again at Las Bambas would add to global supply, potentially dampening prices, though the mine has faced recurring disruption from impoverished local communities demanding higher financial contributions from the mine.
From the Galapagos tortoise and the Komodo dragon of the Indonesian islands, from the West African's rhinoceros viper and to India's gaharel, are threatened with extinction. Research said on Wednesday, the 27th of April, in the first comprehensive global status assessment for reptiles. The study examined 10,196 reptile species, including turtles, crocodiles, lizards, snakes, and tarantula, the only surviving member of the linga dated back for more than 2 million years. They found that 21% of species are critical endangered or vulnerable to extinct as defined by the International Union of Conservation of Nature, the global authority of the status of species. They also identified 31 species that have already gone extinct. Many reptiles are being pushed to brink, the researchers said, by factors simulating imperiling of the world, of the other land, vegetables. Many reptiles are being pushed to the brink, the researchers said, by factors similarly imperiling the world, other land, vertebrates, amphibians, birds, mammals, namely desertification of agriculture, logging and development, urban encroachment, and hunting by people, climate change, and invisible species.
All of those 20% of reptiles that are threatened today go extinct we will lose accumulation of 15 billion years of evolution that's led to these fascinating creatures that we see around us today.
Previous status reports that 41% of amphibian species, 25% of mammal species, and 14% of bird species were threatened with extinction. Species status assessments consider distribution, ambience threats, and population threats. About 27% of reptile species restricted to forested habitats were found to be threatened with extinction compared to 14% of species inhabiting arid habitats. Some reptiles were found to be doing just fine. Australia's saltwater crocodile, the world's largest reptile, is listed in the category for least concern about extinction. Its croc cousin, the gharial, on the other hand, is critically endangered. Among some other well-known reptiles, the Komodo dragon, the world's largest lizard, is endangered. The king cobra, the world's longest venomous snake, is vulnerable. The leatherback and the largest sea turtle is vulnerable. The Galapagos marine iguana is vulnerable, and various Galapagos turtle species range from vulnerable to extinct. Several hotspots for reptile risk were documented. In the Caribbean, for example, the Jamaican rock iguana and the lizard called the blue-tongued gallywasp are critical endangered. In West Africa, Peret's montraned camelon is endangered, and the rhinoceros vipers is vulnerable. In Madagascar, the Namaraka leaf camelon is critical endangered. In Southeast Asia, the big-hearted turtle is critically endangered.
Species are declining at a rapid rate. Some estimates 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more than the background rate of extinction that normally happens on the planet. So we're at a really critical time in Earth's history.
Among the most seriously threatened reptiles is the Chapman's pygmy chalamon, a small lizard inhabiting low evaluation rainforests in Malawi that has been considered possibly extinct, but now has been found in a few forest fragments.
A near 3-century-old instrument launched as a Leonardo da Vinci of violin could fetch as much as 10 million euros when it is auctioned next month. The French house overseeing the sale said, crafted in 1736 by Reverend Italian luthier Giuseppe Guarneri, it is owned by virtuoso Regis Pasquia, and its sound has graced concert halls around the world. There are many violins, but this one is like selling a Rembrandt, a Goya, or even a Leonardo da Vinci painting, said Sophie Perrin of the Agate auction house near Paris. There are many violins, but this one is like selling a Rembrandt, a Goya, or even a Leonardo da Vinci painting, said Sophie Perrin of the Agate auction house near Paris. The maple-back instrument is one of about 150 made by Guarneri, the quality and longevity of whose output rival that of Antonio Stradivari, but who was far less prolific than his compatriot and contemporary. Made at the peak of Guarneri's career, it was bought more than 20 years ago by Pasqua, who gave a concert with it the following day without even practicing on it. Perrin said for him, this instrumental was perfect. He has since played it at prestigious venues including Carnegie Hall in New York and the Opéra Garnier in Paris. The violin will go up for auction on June 3rd following a 3-day viewing. Its base price estimate is 4 to 4.5 million euro, but Perrin said it could sell for up to 10 million.
Countries opposed to Russian invasion of Ukraine must double down on their support to Kyiv, including the supply of heavy weapons, tanks and aeroplanes, British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said on Wednesday, 27th of April.
The biggest assault on a European state since World War II has so far killed thousands and caused widespread destruction across Ukraine. So far, Britain, European Union states, the United States, and other allies have supplied weaponry to help Ukrainian forces fight the Russian army, but they have stopped short of engaging in direct conflict with Moscow. While Ukraine has urged the West to provide more support, Russia accuses NATO of creating a serious risk of nuclear war by arming Ukraine in a proxy battle. Moscow says it launched a special military operation on February 24th because the United States was using Ukraine to threaten Russia and to protect Russian-speaking people there. Kyiv and its allies say these are pretexts for an unprovoked land grab. Truss outlined a new approach in which countries should spend more on defense and where NATO takes a more global outlook while economic dependency on aggressors' nations to be reduced. Since the Russian invasion force was driven back at the outskirts of Kyiv last month, Moscow has refocused its operation on eastern Ukraine, starting a new offensive from several directions to fully capture 2 provinces known as the Donbass. Earlier on Wednesday, Russian forces had used tear gas and stun grenades to disperse a pro-Ukraine rally in the southern city of Kherson, the first big urban center seized by Moscow after the February 24th invasion. Truss also warned China that failure to play by global rules would cut short its rise as a superpower, and said the West should ensure that Taiwan can defend itself.
We can't be complacent. The fate of Ukraine hangs in the balance. But let's be clear, if Putin succeeds, there will be untold further misery across Europe and terrible consequences across the globe. We would never feel safe again. So we must be prepared for the long haul. We've got to double down on our support for Ukraine, and we must follow through on the unity that we've shown in the crisis. We must reboot, recast, and remodel our approach. My vision is a world where free nations are assertive and in the ascendant, where freedom and democracy are strengthened through a network of economic and security partnerships, where aggressors are contained and forced to take a better path. This is the long-term prize, a new era of peace, security, and prosperity.
Human rights lawyer Amal Clooney urged countries in the United Nations on Wednesday, 27th of April, to focus on international justice for war crimes in Ukraine so evidence does not sit in storage as it had done for victims of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria.
Ukraine is today a slaughterhouse right in the heart of Europe, Clooney told an informal UN Security Council meeting on accountability in Ukraine organized by France and Albania. Clooney recalled a 2017 Security Council vote to approve a measure she helped lobby for, the creation of a UN team to collect, preserve, and store evidence of possible international crimes committed by the Islamic State in Iraq. It was the same year her son and daughter with U.S. actor George Clooney were born. My children are now almost 5, and so far most of the evidence collected by the UN is in storage because there is no international court to put ISIS on trial, she said. The International Criminal Court, which handles war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and crimes of aggression, has no jurisdiction because Iraq and Syria are not members. Clooney is part of an international legal task force advising Ukraine on securing accountability for Ukrainian victims in national jurisdictions and working with the Hague-based ICC. ICC prosecutor Karim Khan opened an investigation into Ukraine a week after Russia's February 24th invasion. This is a time when we need to mobilize the law and send it into battle, not on the side of Ukraine against the Russian Federation or on the side of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, but on the side of humanity, Khan told the UN meeting. Russian diplomat Sergei Leonidchenko described the ICC as a political instrument. He accused the United States and Britain of hypocrisy for supporting the ICC inquiry in Ukraine after doing everything imaginable to shield their own military. Moscow describes its February 24th invasion of Ukraine as a special military operation and denies targeting civilians. Ukrainian Prosecutor General Irina Venediktova's office has told Reuters it is preparing war crimes charges against at least 7 Russian military personnel.
A Ukrainian Marine commander in the besieged city of Mariupol made a plea for evacuation of troops and civilians holed up in a Azovstal steel plant.
Serhiy Voliner, commander of Ukraine 36th Marine Brigade, speaking in a video posted online saying, "My name is Serhiy. My surname is Voliner. I am temporary commander of the 36th Marine Brigade. We have been fighting for 62 days. We are fully under siege. We are now on the territory of Azovstal plant. We are fighting alongside Azov Regiment and other units which, following the fighting in Mariupol, have found themselves under siege. In just a few words, there are more than 600 wounded in our unit. The wounds are of various seriousness. They need medical attention. In here, there are no conditions, no medication or personnel that could help them. There are also wounded civilians. We try to help as much as we can. There are hundreds of civilians here with us, tens of children. There are many people with reduced mobility, many elderly. The situation is very difficult. There are shortage of water, food, as well as ammunition, weapons, military equipment. This I do not even want to mention." Reuters verified the identity of the commander with previous news report. The Azovstal steel factory is the main remaining Ukrainian stronghold in Mariupol, a city that has since sustained bombardment since the start of the Russian invasion on February 24. Russian forces have been attempting to storm the plane, according to Ukrainian officials, despite Russian President Vladimir Putin's command last week. The conflict did not need to be taken.
Let's have a look at today's finance. The CSX index is currently at 529.43 points, down 0.91 points or 0.17%. The daily exchange rate is 4,044 real to the US dollar. Now let's have a look what else is happening around the world. European shares advance, the euro dives to its lowest since 2017. Key US equity indexes ended up high after a choppy trade on Wednesday on a boost from the strong earnings from Microsoft and Visa, as the commodity stocks lifted European shares to their first gain in 4 seasons. The euro dropped to its weakest since 2017 after Russia halted gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland, and investors threatened more about the region's economy. The dollar in its surge, of course, of its biggest monthly gain since January 2015, as expectations mounted the US Federal Reserve will hike interest rates aggressively in coming months in the American economy will be stronger in the Eurozone. The Dow Jones industry average rose 0.19% to the end of 33,331.93 points, while the SP 500 gained 0.21% to 4,183.92. The Nasdaq Composite dropped 0.01% to 12,488.93. Microsoft Corp jumped 4.8% and Visa surged 6.5% on strong earnings, helping the boost of the SP 500. Some of Wall Street's biggest names have reported this week, and investors seeking a counterweight to indulge in negative news has pounded stocks. There was more selling in Asia, with the MSCI's broadcast index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan down 0.82% after hitting its lowest since mid-March. Tokyo Nikkei fell 1.17%. Australian shares lost 0.78% as inflation hit a 20-year high, bringing interest rates closer. Battered Chinese stocks buckled the trend, gaining 3% as the data showed faster profit growth industry firms in March earlier this year. US stocks largely edged higher on Wednesday, while the Nasdaq ended flat and falling more than 2% on Tuesday as the investors continue to digest the slow first quarter earning results. Mega-cap tech giants Microsoft and Alphabet offered mixed signals late Tuesday, with Microsoft beating estimates while Alphabet missed some estimates by beating revenue estimates. Shares of Microsoft were up 5% on Wednesday as Alphabet sold off 5%. Investors now await earnings results from Amazon, Apple and Meta platforms, which are set to be released after the bell on Wednesday. After 155 companies have reported earnings results so far, representing 31% of SP 500, overall results are beating income estimates by a median of 7%, according to the data from Fundstrat. On the top line, overall results are beating revenue estimates by a median of 3%. Facebook rebounded from a drop in users early this year, and its parent Meta posted a profit ahead of Wall Street targets, defying low investor expectations, with a quarterly report of scent of shares up of 20%. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg also said that the company would scale back in costs and investing in artificial intelligence tools to improve recommendation and ads. A sign of Meta is buckling down to make money while working on the long-term ambitions to build its megaverse. Its stock rose 19% in after-hours trade on Wednesday. Meta's profit soundly beat Wall Street targets at $2.72 per share compared to the average analyst estimate of $2.56. According to IBIS data from Redsiv, the earning beats are tempered by Meta recording the slowest revenue growth in a decade. Oil edges lower as mass COVID testing begins in China. Oil edges lower as mass COVID test begins in China. Oil prices edged lower in early Asian trade on Thursdays as concerns about rising coronavirus cases in China, the world's biggest oil importer, weigh on future markets. China's capital, Beijing, reported 48 symptomatic and 2 new asymptomatic COVID-19 cases in April 27, stated broadcaster CCTV reported on Thursday. The city recorded 31 symptomatic cases a day earlier and 3 anti-symptomatic ones as it began mass testing programming and continued a new outbreak. Brent crude futures fell 37 cents or 0.4% to $1.04.95 a barrel by midnight GMT US time. West Texas intermediate crude futures fell 27 cents or 0.3% to $1.01.75 a barrel. Russian energy giant Gazprom said on Wednesday it halted gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland. British major Shell said it would no longer accept refined oil blended with Russian products, according to trade documents, while ExxonMobil said it had declared force with majeure on its Shukhin-1 operations in the eastern part of Russia. That's all the latest news and finance. Tune in tomorrow for more. After the break, a look at all the latest sports news.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
The Brazilian Football Confederation named its first female director on Tuesday, the 26th of April, appointing architect Luisa Rosa to the role that includes oversight of new construction projects.
Rosa worked on the organizing committees for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil and the 2016 Olympic and Paralympic Games held in Rio de Janeiro. She was also involved in architecture projects for this year's World Cup in Qatar. Rosa, who's 33, will be tasked with creating 15 development centers with money earned by Brazil when it hosted the 2014 World Cup. She will also oversee an expansion of the Granja Comary headquarters, where the Brazilian national side prepares for international matches and World Cups, said the Globe Sport website. CBF President Ednaldo Rodriguez said Rosa's promotion to Director of Assets would act as an incentive to others. Her appointment comes almost a year after the previous CBF president was removed from office by the organization's ethics committee following allegations that he sexually harassed female employees. Rogério Caboclo has denied the accusations.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson showed off his soccer talents during the visit of Borough Football Club in Manchester on Monday, the 25th of April. He also tried his hand at painting over the gold line at the club's grounds in northwest England. In honour of the visit, the Prime Minister was presented with a soccer shirt with his name and number 10 on the back. His visit comes as the British government is set to establish an independent regulator in the English soccer to deal with the game's finances, club ownerships and corporate governance. The regulator will be backed by the primary legislation to prove it with the statutory powers to licence and sanctuary clubs, the Department of Digital Culture, Media Sports said on Monday. Now let's have a look at the weather and what you can expect for tomorrow. And finally, Mexico City welcomed a life-size replica of the Vatican Sistine Chapel in the capital's historic city centre.
The replica, made up of thousands of high-resolution photographs of the masterpiece frescoes arranged in an equal proportions to the original building in Vatican, opened its door on April 21st and will remain open to the public for 3 weeks. During its first week, the exhibition received more than 150,000 people visitors. Mexico City resident and visitor Claudio Patino told Reuters he was moved by the exhibition. It felt like being there in Sistine Chapel in the Vatican, because I know that they are authentic photographs and they are wonderful. It was very gratifying, and I'm happy to have visited this exhibition. According to local media, Mexico City's authorities hope to reach 1 million visitors while the replica remains in the city. The replica commemorates the 30th anniversary of the re-establishment of the diplomatic relations between the Mexican state and the Vatican. Previously, in June 2016, it was installed in front of the Monument to the Revolution.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup here on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, check our website eacnews.asia or search EAC News on Telegram, Smart TV or your favourite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.